I was just doing some deep breathing exercises because my heart's still hammering. I don't know about you.
I'm not sleeping tonight.
You're not sleeping for a week. Forget tonight. You ain't sleeping for a week. What a game. Blimey, Charlie. Look, let's just get on with the show while I keep breathing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our review of what was an absolutely redonkulous game. The end result it'll say in the history books that Australia won by 5 wickets, but boy, that doesn't tell even a fraction of the story of what we've just seen. And I'm so glad to have someone like Jess Jonassen, who is always so calm, here to talk about the action. Were you calm through that, Jess?
Definitely not. I've got no nails left. I was hiding behind blankets for about 5 overs, and I was scared to move because that was just absolutely insane. I've never experienced anything like that in my whole career.
Yeah, well, I was saying to you before, that's easily the most exciting ODI I have seen since the 2019 Men's World Cup final. That was just crazy. I think it's pretty much summed up by a comment that we've got from Jeremy Henderson, who says that was absolutely bonkers. Because someone has to think of the children, so I won't say that. Flipping bonkers, maybe freaking bonkers, who knows, but it was certainly bonkers. Now, if you do have a comment or a question during the show, please do drop it into that chat, and we'll try to get to it if we can throughout the match. But a lot to talk about. Let's get into it, shall we? Looking back, gosh, it seems like 5 million days ago that this game started, but it did start with India getting off to an absolute flyer, real difference in a way from the first ODI, Jess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you probably saw a real shift in the way that the Indians came out in their intent to score. And obviously, yeah, you've got Smriti Mandana and Shafali Verma at the top there that are two powerhouses. So it was nice that we got to see some glimpses from both of them, and I guess a little bit extra from Smriti today. She really stood up and I guess answered the call that her captain gave her in the media during the week.
Yeah, it was spoken about that opening partnership, and the two of them just absolutely nailed the power play. We did then see. Look, we spoke about Mitali Raj after the first ODI and whether or not she was weighing them down. It was really interesting. She's got 8 off 23 balls, and then there was that real mix-up, the run-out with her and Smriti Mandana. What do you make of that? Because I know we're going to get caught up in the moment of this Australia win, and the way that India's batting was brilliant all the way, but it did feel like the life was sucked out of their innings when Mitali Raj came in, and then it came back into the innings not that long after she got out.
Yeah, I mean it's always a tough one because I think her coming in at number 3 was probably the right call. I think with the platform that their openers had set, it allowed somebody like Mitali to come in and who takes their time a little bit more at the start to really build and get into the innings. However, a lot of it she wasn't quite working those singles the way that she probably needed to, which then probably put a little bit extra pressure on Smriti Mandana to score. And yeah, as we saw, sort of like you said, Mel, that 8 off 23 is probably not quite up to the standard that I guess she probably would hold herself accountable to as well. And yeah, I guess in a way, that run out was probably a bit of a blessing in disguise in that sense that it allowed a few other players later on down the order who come out and play a lot more freely to utilize those balls. And I mean, they've got a lot of young up and coming players coming through, and one I know that we'll mention a little bit later.
Yeah, we are just to sort of emphasize that point. You have most of the players striking anywhere from between, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and even 112 from Julian Goswami was her strike rate. Mitali Raj 34.78. So that's you'd think it'd be something that they would be concerned about, because even when she does score a lot of the runs, the bulk of the runs, they tend to come reasonably slowly as well. But she got it, and then also Yastik Bhatia followed her out soon afterwards. It did bring Richa Ghosh to the crease, and gee, she was impressive again. She was impressive in the first ODI, but the way she played in this, so much attacking and aggression in the way that she played, but also she looked like she's been playing the game for years.
Yeah, well, I like to think like today, especially, she came to the crease with some real authority. And you'd never guess that she was a teenager. The way that she came out and played, she just really took to the Australian attack. And I mean, that girl can play. I mean, anybody who hits Darcy Brown for six back over her head is an exceptional player. So I think the way that she came out and just had the confidence to play her shots, and I think in a way too, the Australian pace attack probably overused the short ball a little bit, so it sort of became a little bit predictable. And somebody like Richa Ghosh actually tended to look like she played the short ball quite well, and played off the back foot with, I guess, relative ease. So it's probably something that the Australian bowling attack will look at, knowing that she's got away from them a little bit in these last two games.
Yeah, we've seen the Australians employ the short ball really well to Shafali Verma as well. But what did you make of the new ball bowling by the Australians? Obviously, in the first match, we saw Darcy Brown in particular do really well early on. But do you think that the Aussies struggled a little bit with the new ball?
I think they did, yeah. I think it probably comes down to a little bit, though, like I mentioned just before, was a little bit of overutilizing the shorter pitch bowling. So in saying that, it's not necessarily the bounces, but it's that back of a length delivery that then sort of negates the effect of the bounces when they do come, because the players are already off on the back foot. I don't think there were enough deliveries fuller, allowing the ball to swing. Um, Whereas somebody like Talia McGrath, who came on much later in the innings, but was still swinging the ball at the 40 over mark. Admittedly, yes, that was under lights, but she is quite a canny bowler, being able to swing it because she bowls slightly fuller. So, I mean, we saw Smriti Mandana got a few back-to-back deliveries from Darcy Brown right in her wheelhouse. But to be fair, I think short and wide to any batter is their wheelhouse. So I think the Aussie opening bowling pair would want to tighten that up a little bit. I think we saw Pez was starting to recapture the form that we know that she's capable of. I would have liked to see her get a few more overs in there somewhere, but I think she was much tidier with her radar. And yeah, hopefully she can have a much more, I guess, a much better impact in the final ODI on Sunday.
Yeah, not bowling her, and of course losing Georgia Wareham as well with a quad injury, but it did stop Meg Lanning from using, I think, 7 bowlers. So she's got some toys to play with. You mentioned swing there, well, and you mentioned under lights. Well, India, when they had the new ball under lights, they were making it swing. They were making it dance around that opening pair of Julian Goswami and Meghna Singh, and that was sensational stuff from both of them, wasn't it?
It was absolutely incredible to watch. I mean, yeah, sitting at home on the couch watching it, I was doing oohs and ahs and jumping up, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, some of those deliveries were literally unplayable. You had Meg Lanning getting beaten both sides of the bat, and one of the best batters in the world, and she couldn't even play some of those deliveries. And um, it was just an exceptionally well executed opening spell from both Julan Goswami, and the
And Meghna Singh.
yes, Meghna Singh. in only her second game.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely it, she's a real gem for them.
She is, isn't she? And I guess to a real a fillip, a real something really to look forward to for India when you look at the fact that Julian Goswami is, she's at there towards the end of her career. She's been playing ODIs for 19 years. So Meghna Singh, definitely one for the future. It's the first balls. I expect it was the first ball she bowled the other night, and then the first ball she bowled tonight. I'm waiting in the future. We're going to have just a highlights reel of Meghna Singh's first balls that she bowls in an innings, because she keeps coming out with a cracker first up. So that was absolutely fantastic. Australia losing all those early wickets. And then Beth Mooney, it's hard to find enough superlatives to describe the innings that she played. It was absolutely phenomenal, supported brilliantly by Talia McGrath again after her work with the ball, but also Nicola Carey at the end. But we were messaging each other throughout that innings, and you're like, she's got to go now, and she's got to take the risk, and then she did. But she sort of timed, I guess, that innings really well, even when Australia were finding it really hard to find the boundary.
Yeah, I think it's always tough in those sort of chases that, particularly when your side's on the back foot so early on, and I mean you lose the likes of Healy, Lanning, Perry for I think a combined total of 8 or something. So that's unheard of, and I think you obviously then see that Beth stood up when Rach Haynes was ruled out through her injury. So that's, I guess, the definition of somebody taking their opportunity. And I think that at different times during the innings, Beth probably struggled a little bit with her timing. With obviously when you are behind the 8 ball, you want to try and get that scoring rate up, and sometimes the harder you try, the worse off you are. So I think the way that Talia McGrath came in probably helped loosen Beth up a little bit and allowed her to sort of get back into the swing of things and took a little bit of pressure off Beth. And I mean, yeah, like for Talia to score a maiden ODI 50 and sort of be very close to a runner ball and under immense pressure as well. It's just goes to show that she's made for the big stage, and the work that she's done through the off season and over the last few years as well is really paying off for her. And then obviously a really important partnership that Beth had with Nick Carey there at the end. Goes to show that you're never really out of the game. And I know that the way that Beth plays, that she goes quite steady and then tries to sort of catch up a bit at the end. So with me messaging you to sort of say she needs to take a risk now, it was like a matter of that it's sort of perceived to be a risk, but it's actually like it's a calculated risk. It's still a shot that's well and truly on in her wheelhouse. It's just a matter of making the decision to do it instead of just taking the easy one on offer, that put the pressure straight back on the Indian bowlers, and then that way the field can spread a bit more, or you start to Beth's probably one of the best manipulators of the field that there is in world cricket. So it was really pleasing to see her take that shot over the top sort of when she was about 70 or 80 odd, which really loosened the shackles for her.
A couple of things that really stood out to me in that as well was the running between the wickets at the end, especially when they weren't getting, the boundaries were hard to come by, but the way she and Nicola Carey in particular ran between the wickets, they couldn't get much better than that, surely.
Yeah, I mean it's something that we pride ourselves on as a squad, is our intensity between the wickets, and I think with the sheer amount of T20 cricket that's been played, that's probably allowed us in the ODI format and even the Test arena. There will still be the intensity of running between the wickets the exact same, and it's, I guess, that idea that every single run is gold, and that was probably shown a bit tonight as well, that it's sort of the fact when it comes down to the last ball or whatnot, that you just never know when that one run is going to prove the match winner for you.
Yeah, and the other thing that we spoke about as well too, it was really impressive, I thought, and interesting at the end, that Beth Mooney really trusted Nicola Carey. She wasn't trying to farm the strike or just take the responsibility on herself. She had a lot of trust in Nicola Carey, who bats at 3, I think, in the WBBL. So I guess that shows, doesn't it, the depth of Australia's batting lineup and the trust that's there.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like we sort of everybody in that squad knows what each and every player is capable of. And I mean, we still had Sophie Molineux, who's also a top order bat, who was coming in next, or Hannah Darlington as well. So I think it's something that we've really prided ourselves on as a squad for a number of years, is that depth that we have. And knowing we have that depth, therefore, then it sort of allows, if a batter's going, that they don't necessarily have to have all the pressure on them. And to be fair, Beth was probably absolutely knackered anyway. So, and I know from past experiences that sometimes when she's trying to sort of overhit the ball, similar to that middle part of her innings, sometimes she just believes that the other person is hitting the ball better, or is the better suited to actually go for the boundary, that she'll just put her head down and run as hard as she can and make sure that she makes her ground. And she did that a number of times tonight.
Yeah, I have to admit, when she was down on her haunches blowing really hard at one point, all I could think of was that WBBL final between the Brisbane Heat and the Sydney Sixers at Drummoyne Oval, when she was literally puking on the ground and getting drinks run out to her all the time because she was puffing so hard. It was absolutely incredible. Let's touch on a couple of, obviously there was a bit of controversy at the end, to say the least. First of all, there was an LBW that was probably missed, that Australia were, well, they were pretty lucky to get away with that one, weren't they?
Yeah, massive, massive point in the game. I don't really know what, yeah, how the decision ended up the way that it did. Potentially, the umpire might have thought that it was hit the batter outside the line, but obviously the replay goes to show that it hit the inside part of her pad, which was cannoning into the off stump. But I mean, umpires are humans as well; they make mistakes. So it's one of those things that obviously, as sports fans and as sports people, we want people to get it right every single time, but that just doesn't happen, and they don't get the benefit of seeing the replay 50 times after the fact, but they do get the opportunity to learn from it, and make sure they're better next time, and try not to make the same mistake again.
Yeah, that one was picked up too by Pawan Kumar, who said LBW in the penultimate over was also not given. Yes, and Nicola Carey got that life there, which was obviously crucial. The other huge one, of course, was the no ball. As tensions were fraying, India were making mistakes. There was overthrows. There was all sorts of things going on, and then India thought they'd won it. They were celebrating. I think people at home were celebrating. And then it ended up being called, above the waist. There's a comment there from Pawan, who says, if she bends her knee, how can that be given a no ball? If you want this way to win, don't call a team to play in your country. So not very happy about that is Pawan. And I think there'll be a lot of Indian fans who won't be very happy about that. But it was going to be a really tight call either way, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think even in games that I've played in, you've seen those be called either way. And it's always a lot more contentious when a result is riding on it, or I guess it's such a crucial point in a game. But ultimately, what you want from the umpires is you just want the consistency. So as long as they're consistent with those same calls across the entire series, then I think it's okay. It's obviously, yeah, somebody always has to lose a game of cricket at the end of the day. So whenever there's decisions that go against the team that loses, and obviously it's always the talking point. And I mean, it was a very eventful last over, but we can't also forget that somebody like Talia McGrath was dropped on 16. Beth Mooney was dropped very early in her innings as well. So obviously you've got these points that are towards the back end of a game, but you also have to remember all the points leading into that as well that could have also had an impact on the game. But yeah, similar to the thing, to the point that I made just before was in and around the LBWs, like umpires are all humans. We're not computers. It's sort of, yeah, it's one of those things, but I think the right call was essentially made in the sense that when Nicola Carey first started her stance, they probably would have drawn a line on screens that we would not have seen on the telecast. So they would have probably drawn a line there. And then regardless of what happened after that, they would have then followed the ball on that same screen. And at the point of contact, if it was on that line or above that line, that's how the decision would have been made. Irrespective of whether she stepped back deep in her crease and sunk down, it's where your original stance was. And her original batting stance was further out. So that was probably how that decision was made in the end.
Because there's a question there from Abhishek who says, why can't we use ball tracking to check such no ball calls? So what you're saying is, in a sense, the umpires have almost got a ball tracking kind of system themselves that we just don't see when we're watching on TV.
Yeah, well, it would be something like, not necessarily that they're getting a pen on the screen and drawing a line, but it's sort of even an umpire in a game that's not televised, for example, they'll have a spot on the other side of the field that they'll potentially be looking at for those calls. So they're like, well, okay, if the ball passes above this point on the fence, say, then it's going to be a no ball. Obviously, you have the benefit in international cricket of third umpires or videoing and all of that, but it would still probably be a similar process that they'd look at a point on the screen where the batter's waist would be, and then once the ball gets to that point, then it's determined whether it is above that original stance or not.
Yeah, that does make sense. I don't think it's going to satisfy India fans who were undoubtedly heartbroken by it. And Manish Sutar says heartbreaking for me, and it would be for a lot. But India fans can take a huge amount out of that match, can't they? Beyond the heartbreak, it was a huge turnaround from India and a massive improvement from the first game that they should take heart from.
Absolutely, and they've got to remember that they're still without Harmanpreet Kaur as well, who's absolute dynamic player. So I think, yeah, that sheer turnaround in such a short space of time can only give them confidence. And I mean, my heart breaks for them. Obviously, yeah, if even with the Australian girls, if it was the other way around, if that ball wasn't called a no ball, the feeling still would have been the exact same as what all the Indian girls and the Indian fans are probably feeling. So it's just, yeah, it's a shame that in sport there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. And I mean, it's just a matter of trying to take the positives out of it. And yeah, the Indian camp should be extremely proud and extremely positive sort of heading into that Sunday's game. That I think the benefit of this series being a multi-format series as well is there's 2 games done, but there's still so many to go and so many points up for grabs. So yeah, it's not a matter of you've lost the first 2 games and that's it. There's still so much left to go.
There is, and seeing that game under lights, it makes me very excited to think about what might be like under lights with the pink ball, with Meghna Singh in particular, seeing what she does with it. Big shout out to Lockie McCurdy, who says, what a finish. Don't know how you're both composed enough to be talking so well about it. Thanks, Lockie. My former partner in crime, who's gone on to other pastures, but I'm very happy to see he's still here. So I think it is. I'll just bring up one from Ananya. Good old Ananya who is actually from Women's Cricket Zone, one of the great websites out there that does a lot of fantastic stuff for women's cricket. What's impressed you, Jess, most about Sophie Molineux in this series so far?
I just think the way that she's just slotted straight back in seamlessly, and I mean, today, the fact that she only bowled maybe like 6 overs or 7 overs, I would have loved to see her bowl her full quota. I think that she was probably one of the best bowlers in the Australian side today. Sort of her changes of pace, and she just seems to be, I guess, have her confidence back again to knowing which ball to bowl and when to bowl it. And the way she closed out the innings was exceptional. So, I mean, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall to see how nervous she was being the next one into bat tonight. But yeah, she's been absolutely great, and I look forward to seeing what she can produce for the rest of the series.
Well, we'll get a chance on Sunday when the third ODI comes around. And boy, after what we've seen in this match, who knows what's going to happen in the next one? It's an exciting series. This is game on, absolutely. Thanks so much for your thoughts, Jess. It's great to have that insight from you. Thanks all of you for joining us live. I'm sorry if we didn't get round to your comments, but we've had loads of people here who have been commenting. But please do subscribe, give us a like, leave us a comment, and do come and follow us again and come and join us again. I'll be back with Megan Shute to preview the third ODI, and then Jess will be back with us if you've got any fingernails left, and if you've survived not only tonight's game but your football team playing the AFL Grand Final tomorrow night. How are you going to cope?
I'll probably be a little bit sleep deprived, but that's okay. I mean, as long as there's a few victories, I won't really mind.
Well, good luck to your team, the Bulldogs, tomorrow night. Heartbreak for India, celebrations for Australia, of course, but still a hell of a lot to play for. I'm really pumped about this series. I hope you are too. And until next time, enjoy your cricket.